agent. From this point on, you are Espire 1 VR operative.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Chris from Shugghead Gaming, and I'm very proud to host another episode of the PSVR chat show. This evening, this afternoon, or this morning, depending on where you're at, we have with us Michael Wentworth-Bell, founder of Digital Lode. You might know him as the developer behind Espire 1 VR Operative. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me here. It's awesome to be on the show.
And before we get into things with Michael here, I just want to introduce some of the people that are gracing our couch over here. We have Justin from Just Incredible VR. We have Betty, otherwise known as CreeperBettyPSVR. And we also have AJ, you know him as Godcannon, PSVR Underground, and also of Without Parole fame. And of course, we have our producer, Jason the Handi-Man Can VR. In addition, we also have some of the crew here that's worked on the sets that you see on this show. We couldn't do it without them. We have on the right side, left side for me, we have Velp. He is the editor and does animations over here. And we also have Noctauto, and he is an artist on the PSVR chat show. All right, Michael, you're on the hot seat now. Let's start off with a question about Digital Lode. Tell us about the studio. Tell us about your history. I think you guys are a fairly new studio, so educate us.
Sure. We're known only for Espire 1. It's the only game we've released. The company was founded because of Espire. It was founded by myself in 2017, and it kind of took from then until November 2019 for the game to be released. And so over that time, we kind of grew from a team of one. At our peak, we were about 13 people, and so post-release of Espire, there's 10 of us. Continue to work on Espire 1 and future Espire stuff, and also our studio's kind of our focus is immersive media, so we've also done a few other contract jobs. At the moment, we're doing a VR escape room for a local technical school in Australia, where four students have got to try and escape a space station before they suffocate. Pretty fun stuff.
That sounds awesome. And so I guess for those who may not know your game, and I'm sure that for most of us out there, if you're into action stealth VR games, then you know Espire 1 VR Operative. But please give us the elevator pitch. Let us know what your game's all about.
Yeah, the elevator pitch, wearing our inspiration on our sleeve was always it's Metal Gear meets GoldenEye 007 in an immersive virtual world. And so that's kind of what really started the development of it back in 2017. And it's come at a game, our first game, where effectively you're working for the intelligence force of Australia, and you're an operative of the future. And so you've kind of got to stop the evil Ophis mercenary group from taking out one of the Australian black sites across the story.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I'd always heard the Metal Gear Solid comparisons, and I think that's very obvious going into it, but I never really thought of the GoldenEye stuff. But now that I think of it, yeah, it actually is dripping with GoldenEye influences. Even the way the guns handle, very cool. Well, I guess the first real question that we have for the evening here, and this is mostly for the PSVR headsets at home here, when Espire 1 VR Operative came out, it came out across all the PC headsets, as well as the Oculus Quest, and of course the PSVR. Although for PSVR headsets, the version that hit PlayStation didn't seem to kind of live up to the expectations, I guess, that were put out there. But the PC and Quest versions were definitely looking very polished and a lot more, I think, in line with your guys' vision. Can you give us a little bit of background of kind of what went on behind the scenes in the development process, and I guess why there was a bit of a difference between the quality in the different versions?
Sure, that's definitely the truth. And on release, we kind of felt that it didn't live up to the expectations we had on any of the platforms, and PSVR was definitely the one that had the most issues. At the same time, the Steam version was also fairly not well received, And since then, we've been trying our best to turn that around. I think it just comes down to, like, behind the scenes. At once, I had an interview at the PAX conference, and they said, "What's it like developing the game?" I said, "It's like a fun nightmare," and it kind of sums it up pretty well. We just first-time development studio, under a lot of pressure. We kind of aimed for the stars with the game and had no idea about how to meet that ambition. And aside from our narrative lead, everyone else on the team, it was also their first game. And we were very lucky to partner with Tripwire Interactive, who have been a developer of 16 years and have now moved into publishing. And so as a result, it was kind of an early publishing attempt for Tripwire, an early development attempt for us. On the other side, with a lot of months of reflection, we think, cool, there's a lot that worked well, but there's a lot of, regret and things that we wish could have been better. The PSVR version is one of them. And yeah, from the learnings that we're hoping to not make mistakes like that again, where, simultaneous release day one on all platforms in VR is not a good idea. We ended up basically spending a lot of the development time trying to make the game work as opposed to make the game awesome. Yeah. And and spent a lot of time since then trying to, fix the mistakes and issues that were plaguing that version, the PSVR version particularly, but also PC and Quest.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into as we get into some further questions about a lot of the amazing work that you guys have done to bring the game up. I think with much more in line with what everybody was hoping the game would be at launch. Just to dig a little bit deeper, I'm just curious because as a primarily a PSVR headset user, I think we're always curious about like what is happening behind the scenes when developers are looking at all three versions. I think the hard thing for PSVR owners was that the Quest, being the lowest end of the three hardware-wise, looked sharper and I guess it looked like a cleaner game than the PSVR version. I was just curious, how do you guys approach the three versions there?
Yeah, it's the most difficult part of the development was trying to build once and deploy onto three major platforms. And at the high end, you've got PC, where you might have people playing the game on RTX graphics cards and 16 gig of RAM. And then at the lowest end, you've got Quest, which is, the Snapdragon 835. It was a high-end phone in, I think, 2016. And PSVR, the difficulty is trying to find where it falls on that. And so to dig deeper, we actually had the game, like I was alluding to, we started development in 2017. I wasn't a game developer and hadn't studied it. So I was self-learning. If you guys are familiar with Blueprints, the game was 100% written in Blueprints, and we shipped it 80% in Blueprints, which was pretty ridiculous that it still works on Quest. But obviously, as the team grew, they kind of inherited the code debt that had been there from myself in the early days, and we were rewriting it. And then it wasn't until quite late in its development, I'd say, that we kind of had to target the Quest, because the Quest became a thing. And I could probably talk later a bit about like the just risk of VR games. So, if you think about the risk proposition, unknown team in Australia, it's not like an unknown team that you could go down the street and open the door and go, "What are you guys up to?" You just got to trust us. Never done a game. No one on the team has experience, and trying to target VR. So, there was a lot of risk there. As a result, we wanted to try and target all the platforms so it had the best chance of a success, of not being a complete failure and shutting the doors on our studio. And so the issue we had was it was a game designed for PC, and then at a certain point we had to lower the spec for Quest, and then at a certain point we had to target PSVR as well. And so late into development, we kind of got to the point where we realized the PC version of Espire 1 can't scale down to PSVR. So we're going to have to try and get the Quest version of Espire 1 to scale up. And as a result, that made the game run a lot better, but it didn't look that good at all when the game launched. And so we effectively have a system. If anyone watching this is keen, on our YouTube channel, we did a deep dive with Epic Games about 2 months ago, where all of the guards, all the encounters, all of the level scripting logic is shared, and then the levels themselves are duplicated. There's a PC version, there's a Quest version, and so basically the PC version takes all of the level data, adds on its own environments, that gets shipped. The Quest and PSVR version take the Quest maps plus the same level scripting, so we can minimize the amount of overlap and bugs, and that gets shipped. And the difference, obviously, between Quest and PSVR is all the models, materials, animations can be at a higher level, but the underlying environments on the PSVR are the same as the Quest. And that was because the GPU on the PSVR also is a challenge. So trying to find the middle ground between Quest and PC, it goes, cool, PSVR is killing it on the CPU, RAM's not bad, GPUs has challenges depending on how you build your environments. So we've tried to just find our way to make it work.
I'm glad I don't have your job. But I will say, though, that thank you so much for explaining that to us. I think that obviously there's people out there who just love to complain about everything, but I like to think that as a whole, the VR gamer community likes to work along with developers. I feel like we're all in this together to grow something that we love. So I think especially once people got a little bit of distance, we just wanted to cheerlead Espire 1 because we wanted it. So I'm really happy that the game got much more in line with what we wanted. But that leads me to my next question here is, from the outside looking in, I always felt like being a brand new studio taking on a very ambitious game, and the game started to get quite a bit of traction because you started hearing things thrown around like Metal Gear Solid. I mean, a series that Hideo Kojima himself can't even seem to better. And so it's almost impossible to meet expectations. And like for myself looking in, I felt like you guys were almost getting yourselves into a Hello Games situation with No Man's Sky, where no matter what you did, it was never going to meet people's expectations because now they wanted Metal Gear Solid. Did you guys, I mean, I'm sure you loved the traction that the game was getting, but at some point did you kind of go, oh, like, this is going too big. People need to chill out.
Definitely. And I think at the same time too, we thought the elevator pitch was always Metal Gear meets GoldenEye. So we were trying to do a game that, you know, you could play stealth, but if you wanted to, you could have fun just blasting up the base, running and gunning. And so again, that was great learning, where it's very hard to do that in a stealth game, and it's very hard to do stealth game AI, and it's very hard to do stealth game AI in VR, where if the enemies don't really meet your expectations, all the immersion is lost. And so we did feel that pressure a lot, but I guess so deep in it, I mean, it probably talks to it as well. Like looking around the room here, it's like, holy crap, look at how amazing Rec Room is. You know, we're VR devs, we just haven't really jumped into other games enough, because we were just sort of like, we just jumped in and we're just swimming through the development. Oh, I'll turn my watch on for ages, and then didn't realize, didn't kind of like surface enough to just keep on top of everything else that's going on in VR. And I got a tangent. Yeah, back to the question. Definitely had that pressure, and it led to essentially like a pretty major delay, where the game was meant to release in September 24th. We're actually going to be on the show. It's something we also deeply regret. And the day that we were on that show was the same morning we were kind of having a meeting with the publisher, where they're like, guys, we just have to delay this, because it's if we release it now, it's not good enough. And so that expectations, it hit us on the Steam version. So I'm happy to kind of talk a bit openly, where, you know, that it was the only platform on Steam where there was pre-orders, and I think definitely, you know, there was a lot of hype, and we had the ability to go to E3 and get Upload VR's Best of E3 award. It was incredible to think, holy crap, like this unknown team, you know, first time we've managed to nab the Best of E3 award with a whole bunch of other VR games out there too. It was like, that's amazing. And yeah, it released with too many bugs. It was delayed, and as a result, when the people that had pre-ordered the games finally installed it no way did it live up to their expectations, and we understand that. And as a result, it's got like a pretty high refund rate on Steam. But we've I guess, like the No Man's Sky comparison, we on launch day we all just sat back and went, wow, this is not cool. But it has turned out to be a top seller on Quest, and in particular. And we were able to kind of just try and claw ourselves out of it over many months, and we still haven't given up. So as a result, it's kind of turned into a kind of success. On Steam, it hasn't. I don't think we'll ever kind of pull out of that. On PSVR, we've seen over time users come back and give it a go. We've had a series of updates, and it's slowly turning around, which is awesome that people can give it a second chance.
Well, and I think that in keeping with the No Man's Sky comparison, I thought you guys did a very good job of kind of following what Sean Murray kind of he even talked about it in a TED Talk about what they did when shit hit the fan, so to speak. Is you guys did a very similar thing, and you just kind of put your head down, and when you came back up for air to talk to everybody, you were kind of like, and here is the assimilation update. It's kind of like, we'll show you when we have it, instead of making promises we can't keep. And I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, and lucky for us too, because we've figured in the end the assimilation update is something that probably hasn't made back the amount of dev time that went into it, but we kind of saw that as like, we wish the game was kind of at that level when we launched, And so on reflection, we're kind of like, we could have had 6 more months, I guess. But it's all learnings for us, and it's particularly on that point of, making these kind of unmeetable expectations. It was the cool thing about from day one, the first demo that I had done of the game, I had no video game background, so if you know Unreal is an animation tool called Matinee where you could basically just animate things. And so I had a video shared on Reddit showing here's all the ideas of a VR stealth game where you could pull out your magazine, cause distractions to enemies, say freeze, and hold up the guards. And it was basically 80% made with Matinee. But so all the whole time it was very much like, we have no idea what we're doing. But through the kind of like, look at it, we want to do games like Metal Gear and GoldenEye in VR, and that helped open the door to people to take interest in it, which was a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. Well, you guys are crazy. I mean, we love this type of crazy, but you also decided to take on one of the most ambitious games that we've seen in VR as your first game for a new studio, for somebody who also had never made a game before. So, I'm not sure. Good for you. I don't know if that's fair. But, on that note, thank you for sitting in the spotlight while we shined it down on you. I really appreciate your honesty, Mike. I'm going to pass it off to Betty. Betty, you want to start us off with the couch questions?
Hey, Michael. So glad you're here today. My question you pretty much answered already for the flat screens. And the question I had was the games, on how they influenced and inspired your game, and how did it affect the game that was built? That you built. I mean, you've already talked about the AR, but what about the VR portion of the games?
I mean, there was plenty of VR games that inspired us, and a lot of that came from around 2016. So the background for myself getting into VR was I did offline 3D rendering where it's like 90 minutes a frame to render an image, and then the Oculus DK1 and 2 came out, and it's like, holy crap, you could do 90 frames a second. And so definitely wanted to try that out. And that's when I became immersed in all of the earlier VR games that were around then. So one of the primary inspirations for Espire was I Expect You to Die. That game has a very long history. It's an amazing game. And also the developers, Shell Games, have also a huge history in VR, where the head of that studio has actually always been in VR effectively since the early 90s, I think, or even, and continued and stayed on at Disney and stuff. So that was a game where I bought the headset. I didn't know it had positional tracking, the DK2. I knew the DK1 only worked with rotation, and right at the start of that game, it had a laser on you, and it would just kept hitting me in the head, and I'm like, I have no idea how to pass this. And then someone watching said, why don't you just move? And I'm like, you can't. The technology's not there yet, and they just pushed me over, and the laser missed, and I was just like, wow, that's it. This is this is the future, and that kind of just set it off. And a lot of the earlier games, like the Gallery, which is the game the studio did before Pistol Whip, Call of Starseed, that also had. It was mostly inspiration for just how do you want to have input and controls and move around in a virtual world. And the final one, it's not very well known potentially. It's more of a plugin called the VR expansion plugin, and it's a tool that's been used in a number of games. I might be wrong, but I think Contractors VR uses it. quite a few other multiplayer ones, but it's like a framework for Unreal Engine where you can learn movement, and it's got a whole bunch of systems in there. And so that and the developer Mordentrol of that plugin was, I guess, big inspiration too, because yeah, on the side we're playing Splinter Cell and Metal Gear and GoldenEye stuff, and in VR we're looking at a lot of these different tools and going, yeah, how could we redo climbing in VR? How could we, do hold up situations or distractions in VR? Now that we've got positionally tracked hands and head, and so they're probably the primary inspirations.
Nice. Very nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, great answer.
Good
Well,
answer. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. That's a great question. And we'll carry it on over to AJ. AJ, you want to keep things going for us?
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man? First of all, I appreciate you being here. Secondly, the control theater was one of the selling points going into launch, and a lot of people that are new to VR can easily suffer motion sickness. And this has a unique design. We're usually used to like blinders, like with the black circles around the eyes. Could you just elaborate a little bit and tell us like what was the design? What was can you elaborate on the design choices, because it's obviously really unique? And can you also tell us like how the reception was? Yeah,
the design choices, the whole pitch was that you're, in Espire 1, you're standing in your control theater. It's a holodeck style room. The original pitch was it would resize to the size of your tracked area, so depending on what device you are, but we didn't get that in time. And so you're using your cutting edge, VR hardware like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive and the PSVR at the time, to basically remotely control this drone of the future, the Espire Model 1. And so everything you did, it would do with less than 11 milliseconds of latency. And so the idea was that every time you do something that's artificial, where it's the movement of Espire doesn't match up to you, Espire's view would shrink down to the size of a floating iPad, and in your peripheral vision, you'd see the control theater that you're standing in. And so the pitch from day one was that it would minimize VR sickness while maintaining immersion in the virtual world. And it was what got us our foot in the door with Tripwire Interactive, where we had a demo video, and their CEO, John Gibson, asked for a prototype of Espire 1, and I gave it to him, and he finished playing the game and said, that's the first time I've been able to play a VR game that had free movement, sliding locomotion, and I didn't puke. And I did a circle strafe around an enemy. And so that's when he said, tell me more about your team and let's sign an NDA. And then I kind of ended the call going, what is an NDA on Google? And it was very awesome. But I think in the end, the reception wasn't as good as we'd hoped, mostly because, again, it was something that was made by myself on PC. It ran great. But if you can imagine, you've got to render 90 frames a second. Half of our frame budget was rendering this control theater because I just didn't know what I was doing. And so our lead programmer then had to rewrite it once, and then he had to rewrite it again to run on Oculus Quest. And then we had to rewrite it again to kind of work with the PS Move controllers. So I think in the end it came to a situation where we think it kind of regressed a bit. And we'd probably say it reduces VR sickness. There's people that even if they sit in a car and they try and reverse, they might, and they're not driving the car, they might sweat bullets and feel sick. But you could put them in Espire 1 with the control theater off, and again, they will just be hurling or lying down for a couple of hours. Turn the control theater on, they might be able to play for about 25 minutes to 30 without starting to feel sick. So we thought that's cool. It's reducing simulator sickness, and we got work to do to meet that original ambition, which we'll continue to do.
Well, it certainly looks cooler than your average just black circles around the screen, and I can definitely tell that the CEO of Tripwire liked it, because I definitely noticed that the next time I booted up Killing Floor Incursion, I was like, hey, this looks familiar.
We can't say anything bad about Tripwire because John Gibson was basically a mentor for me and the team, and so in that story he kind of was like right early on going, I can't fund a VR game, but I can fund a demo. And then he said, I can fund a vertical slice, which basically is an industry term for like a 5-minute segment of the game that's basically content complete. So you could play it and feel what it's like. And then they got to moments where we had no funding. So John was like, would you guys want to do bug fixes on Killing Floor Incursion? And we're like, yep. And then it got to the point where it was like, would you like to add it to Killing Floor Incursion? And we're like, yep. So we're basically able to sustain the team through a long time until we got the kind of full development contract in and improving ourselves a bit as well. So yeah, it showed up in Incursion, and it'll probably, show up in everything else we or Tripwire do.
Just as a quick follow-up, may I ask, is your team responsible for some of the performance enhancements to Killing Floor Incursion? Because it had a few minor ones. Was that your team that was behind that?
We worked half on the Control Theater update. That was in 2019, and then they've had another update in May this year. That was the I think it's the 1.8 update. And so that the major reason for that was to add the support for their Valve Index on PC, but also the Control Theater update added free locomotion to that game. So I think a big thing about VR games is that you have to listen to the audience, and sadly, close to launch, you realize too late that there's something about a game that's wrong, and Killing Floor Incursion was one of those games where it launched without, or was almost going to launch without, free locomotion, and there's obviously a very vocal amount of people that need it and want to play the game that way. So it was added in the last week, and so the implementation wasn't great. As a result, the Control Theater update was us taking the Espire 1 like free move system and also the Control Theater system at the same time in, but that created bugs which we then fixed, a few months later.
Well, awesome. Thank you for answering that. I can definitely tell you that Killing Floor Incursion is better with the full smooth locomotion. Absolutely, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and the co-op.
Yeah, it's scary as all hell. It's so fun.
Well, AJ, thanks for that question. That was awesome. And keeping with the theme of movement in VR, Jason, let's segue over to you.
Here I come. Yes, building upon the movement and the motion sickness. I know you guys had originally talked about the 3D rudder, adding that to the game, and you had a big interest in it. And then I've even seen a couple months ago you guys asking people if they still wanted it. I want to be here to say yes. I would love that in there if you could. I'm sure others would as well. Is there any plans to add that, or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it became a dead issue just because we missed the boat big time on it, and we had a great opportunity to add it, and I suppose there was also other grand plans to add features and things to and hardware support to the game, but it's probably, I'd say it's a shelved issue. So to hear the players still want it, I think it's impetus for us to add the support in, because particularly on the PlayStation with the Move controller, it's something that would be awesome to have. And the 3D Rudder guys are pretty great. They've given us the dev kit, so yeah, I think it's more for us just understanding that it should be a priority, because we've kind of continued to look at the game and go, what's the top priority for us to fix and things to add, and we haven't prioritized 3D Rudder enough.
And that's something we hear often. I mean, especially from the looking at it from people with mobility issues, it often doesn't, end up on top of the pile because it's a smaller group of people that need it. But being friends with Jason, I can definitely attest to how much it means to certain gamers when there's options for them, especially in a game like yours with so much movement. So yeah, it's great to hear that it's still floating around the office there. Betty, let's go back to you.
Yes. Okay, so whose idea was it to use a robot to control versus using a human character? And what was the idea behind all of that? Why a robot versus a human?
Yeah, it was my idea. It was kind of like the first idea, and the reason it came about was because you could try to apologize, I guess, for all the issues that VR had and still has even now, but things like tracking issues where your hands start floating or they don't line up one-to-one, or you could explain that as interference with this Espire link between you and the Espire robot, and issues like, I don't feel damage when I'm getting punched in the chest by an enemy guard. So it's like, well, yeah, duh, because it's the Espire robot, it's 2,000 miles away. And also like things like, how come you can't, how come there's no kind of haptic or tension against you when you're lifting up like a 200 kilogram soldier and holding them over your head, and it's like, well, yeah, because it's a robot, it's got crazy gyros. So that was the
Right.
reason we went with that idea.
I totally understand that. Yes, because if it was a human, it would be all beat up and bruised.
Yeah, and I think in the kind of like wash up of the game, a lot of feedback we've got is because there's a disconnect between you and the Espire robot. Maybe you don't feel as scared because it's not you that's there. And so that's something that we definitely thought, cool, how can we, take that on board for the sequel or future stuff we're doing?
And now that Jason has emotionally recovered from talking about the 3D rudder, let's circle back towards Jason here with a follow-up question.
First, I want to thank you for taking seated players into consideration. There's a lot of devs out there, especially on the PC side, that just want to do the full immersion. They don't really take us into consideration at all. And it's kind of tough, because there's some games out there I can't play, and I know others are in the same boat. A lot of these devs that are doing this don't realize that if they take that into their build from the start, it would actually get them more of a bigger player base and more sales. For those watching right now, if you are. But like I said, I just really want to thank you for doing that, because I like playing games. And yours I can play without. I can literally sit there. I can reach on my sides with any issues, even on the couch. I can do it. Like, you guys have made it so good where I can just do a tiny lean, grab my dart gun, shoot it out. So thank you for that. I wish more people would think the same way you guys did on that. But thanks again. So it's more of a statement than a question there for you. But thank you for doing that. Yeah,
no, but it's good. It reiterates into us as well, and we were not coming at it from enough of an accessibility standpoint. We definitely tried to. It was one of our pillars. We had like 9 pillars of the game that we have to try and meet. One of them was accessibility, so we had the artificial crouch and the seated option, but it just wasn't something that we put enough focus on. And I guess because I can only talk for us as a developer, but we just probably didn't beta test enough. In fact, we barely beta tested the game before launch, and I think that's like what you said earlier, where it's the the community, VR community, want to see the devs grow with the community and adapt the game, and we missed that opportunity early on. So it's feedback. It's a statement that I'll reiterate to the team, particularly the guys that did the logic on it, and go, people like it and use it. We didn't add analytics, so we don't know how many people use seated mode or use different things. So again, I'll add that on our list.
Yeah, the hardcore guys seem to be a little more vocal with not wanting those options, but it's just for them. The more players you guys have, the better, because obviously you enjoy making the games, but this is a money-making deal, right? This is a money-making deal, so when it comes down, it's just better to have options there, like you say. I always say, AJ, options. Yes, definitely. Yeah. I'm with you and Brian on that one too.
And I've always said that too, right? Just give us the choice to play it the way we want to play it. And that doesn't work for every game, but when it can, it's nice to be able to have choices, for those who want hardcore and for those who want to tone it down a little bit. But just quickly, I just want to throw in here, when you talked about the fact that you guys kind of felt like you kind of had your head in the sand and you were kind of just working and you weren't actually paying attention maybe to like what was happening outside of your work bubble. I think that any of us who have spoken to developers, I think AJ could attest to this. There's so many developers we've spoken to who just got so into development, they just kind of sometimes lost touch with kind of where the VR scene was at and kind of what they were crying for. I mean, we've seen it, even the best of them, even Ubisoft, when it came to move controller support and stuff, just didn't realize kind of where specifically the PSVR community was at with that. So it happens. You're not on your own.
Yeah.
So definitely we understand that. Justin, you've been just sitting there. I think your mustache is getting curlier in anticipation. It's your time to shine. It's your time to shine.
Awesome. Alrighty, so the challenges added between each of the missions, I thought they were really helpful and really fun. They're a really good way to train up your Espire unit and get a little bit more skill. Really helped added a lot of longevity for me. So could you just explain who came up with that idea?
Probably the team at Kojima Productions, I guess. It was totally inspired by the VR missions in Metal Gear 1. there's a Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 had that collection of small challenges. And so, yeah, we definitely took inspiration from that and thought, let's try and do a number of challenges for sneaking, takedown. We tried to, make them unique to the medium and bring in all the other inspiration. But yeah, that's definitely where that came from.
Yeah, awesome. I could definitely tell. I thought that was the case. And no, there's nothing better than a real good challenge.
We think, again, we don't have analytics in the game, so we do things like just look off leaderboards, and also just play time. So we have like anonymized things like how long are people playing the game, and so we see, I think, the challenges as something that like people come back and play over and over again. And personally, myself, I'm big onto speed runs, and so and into competition. So we have a small beta testing team of 8. And they're all just, and again, it's a terrible pool of people to choose, but we just picked the top people on the leaderboard and then Google searched their gamer tag and then just sent them like a message going, do you want to, give us feedback? And so, yeah, we definitely try and take that competitive angle on the challenges more seriously, where it's like, let's have try and make it replayable and fun.
Awesome, yeah. Totally worth it. It really helps flesh out the game, I think. Thanks for answering.
Yeah, I actually thought that some of your more ambitious ideas started to crop up in some of those missions. I don't know if those were some ideas that maybe got left on the cutting room floor, but I thought some of the most amazing moments in that game were actually hiding away in some of those missions. So if you guys haven't explored those, I definitely recommend taking a deep dive on that. Justin, thank you for that question. AJ, back to you.
So the assimilation update came out not too long ago, and it was like the first of many promises that you guys were trying to deliver, and I thought you came through on a lot. I thought it was really, really a significant update. It improved things such as like the graphics, the lighting, it added a bunch of new challenges, enhanced a lot of features, added cheats, and also fixed a lot of bugs. Was this a result of like trying to both make improvements and expand upon it at the same time? And do you have any other future updates planned for the game?
Yeah, yes. In response to the question, yes to both. It was basically the assimilation update was meant to be just a number of fixes, and then on the PlayStation side, trying to bring it to parity with the other two games because it was missing things like cheats. It also had things like not enough options available, and so at the same time, we ended up doing we called it just a polish pass of the whole game. And so from level 1 to the 6 campaign missions, and in the end, there's like the 48 challenges. We just did a lighting pass of all of it and try to fix things like just bad meshes and collision problems. Definitely haven't caught them all, but it was a big kind of push. And at the same time, there was the COVID-19 stuff. So the whole team went remote. And so most of the assimilation update was remote. And so, yeah, it ended up growing out of proportion just because that was our biggest weakness. We just don't stop things. And so, we try to add stuff instead of polish what's there, which this is just me being negative about. But what we did was hire like a dedicated project manager and hire like a, QA tested in-house so that we can hopefully keep our ambition down, be more focused. And so that was our big update. Preceding it was 5 smaller ones. The 1.1 and 1.51, and so yeah, coming next for Espire 1, we've been doing a couple of hot fixes. They're smaller. They just add hopefully quality of life stuff. The latest hot fix launched on the PC and Quest about 2 weeks ago, and on PSVR it'll hopefully be out any week. That just brings in a few more bug fixes and fixes for cheats and trials and stuff like that. The hand cameras on the PSVR now, you can finally pick them up, throw them, and they'll give a live camera feed, which was again something that was just missing from the PlayStation version. And after that, we've got a Quest 2 update. So that'll be something that actually ships to all the platforms because we're upgrading the game engine, Unreal, from 4.21 to 4.25. So 4 major updates. The performance improvements from that will kind of go to all platforms. And following that, we've got another content update, our 1.7 update, which will have new environments and new challenges and new features. One of the ones that's contentious is whether we add a jump button, because that's something that a lot of people have asked. But we thought, we could definitely add it, but would it be good enough, and would it break the game? Yeah. So what's next?
So earlier you had mentioned the Quest a little bit and mentioned how you're going to be adding new updates for the Quest 2. Are you able to elaborate on that at all? Give us any more information or anything to look forward to for the Quest 2?
Yeah, I've got to be careful what I say, but I think I can probably talk to everything that's publicly announced that's been seen at Facebook Connect in the days and weeks after. And yeah, I think for Quest 2, it's, as it said, it's a much more powerful device. And for a game like Espire, or really any, it's said it has full backwards compatibility with existing Quest library. So as a developer, we've got the option to opt into a Quest 2 update, which for us we see is like a no-brainer. It means that every game would be different, and so every game has an easy to hard challenge, and for us it means a pretty major update of our Unreal Engine to support the Quest 2 device. And as a result, though, we'll be able to specifically implement the Quest 2's extra features. So for us, that's going to be better texture resolution and better performance overall. Because even on Quest, there's some areas of the game that have some hitching, especially when you've got a few guards on screen and you're dual wielding weapons and stuff. And so that'll help a lot. And also, the removal of the fixed foveated rendering for any Quest users that are familiar with that's where around the edges of your vision, the game renders at a low resolution. But even without our Quest 2 update, the game will run faster and better in that way as well. So it'll have some slight issues where you'll see the wrong controllers in your hands. It can get more technical, but it's basically people that would be playing this game, and I think all the games in the Quest library without a Quest 2 update would still see big improvements without the foveated rendering. In our case, upgraded texture resolution because the game will just scale up based off the frame buffer of the device. So, and the reason that we're excited and we kind of go, that's worth the effort because we do believe that, in VR, that's why we're doing it. And for us, it's like, cool, it's a major upgrade, but we can ship it on every platform. And a lot of those improvements will come to all of them. It might take us a while to get them all there because you have to basically go through the QA process of the whole game when you do a major engine upgrade like that. But it should hopefully, be a net win for all players. And yeah, we're excited about the Quest 2.
Awesome. Yeah,
That's
any
awesome.
performance upgrade, especially for the new device, is going to be totally worth it. I think that's awesome. I think every developer should at least try to do something, even if it's just textures or clarity or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think Oculus have publicly said that the Quest library will just get a lot of performance upgrades without a developer update. So, and I think that's awesome for people that have pre-ordered that device, basically the whole library should be there to play. And so, yeah, for us, it's more a case of working out when could we do our Quest update, and which is fine because I'd be happy to see people play the game without it anyway on that device.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Justin. And I'll just jump off that as we move into kind of closing off the interview. I, for one, am absolutely surprised and really happy to hear that you guys are still, sticking with Espire 1 and kind of keeping it going as it moves into other generations of hardware as well. So many times we see VR developers just kind of walk away from projects, and I think the thing that excites me the most in VR is watching games develop. We don't get that. You don't get that in the flat scene as much, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, this game has multiplayer now. It's like, what? That's crazy. And so, I just love hearing stories about developers just kind of continuing trying to polish their product, push the envelope. So that's really good to hear. Outside of Espire 1, are there any rumblings, any whispers about what might be on the horizon for you guys that you can talk about?
I guess there's probably not anything we can talk about, but all I can say is that it's obviously our dream to follow up that game with, with a dream project with all the learning we've had. And so we've been lucky to see the game find a following on all three platforms after a time. And it especially on the Quest, it's turned into a top seller, which that's allowed us to effectively keep supporting Espire 1 because it's keeping the doors open and the lights on for us. So we can't not support Espire 1 because one, we love it, and two, it's our only source of revenue or our major source of revenue. And so, yeah, we obviously want to do more, but there's just not time to talk about it, and hate to overpromise and under-deliver again. So,
well, there you go. Look at that. Lessons learned. Okay, well, before we say goodnight or good morning to everybody, is there anything you wanted to kind of talk about, share with us, share with the audience, anything at all?
It's mostly a thank you for letting me be on the show to talk a bit. We haven't actually done much of a talking about anything to anyone really, other than just release the game in November and then just be quiet for, I think it's been, it's almost 10 months. So we really appreciate it, and we appreciate the chance to talk a bit about the game and the team behind it. We do, I guess the only area we really are present is our Discord, Discord GG/Espire1. That's where I think we seem to get a few players in, and that's where we triage a lot of the good and bad feedback suggestions for the future. And so to get to talk out of our bubble to the broader community, particularly the PSVR community, has been an awesome opportunity. And yeah, we haven't, it's just a start for Espire 1, I guess. We continue to try and take feedback and prioritize it as we can. And yeah, we want to thank everyone that's supported the game, especially those that bought it, even if they refunded it, whatever kind of feedback, positive or negative, it really helped us. And yeah, we're doing like a dream job really because of that. So we appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for sitting here and being so honest with us. I think it shows a lot of integrity for not only you but also Digital Lode. And thank you. Also, I think I can speak for a lot of people out there for for taking feedback and listening and trying to make the game that we all wanted Espire 1 to be. I think it's just a beautiful thing. And one more thank you. Thank you for being with us on the PSVR chat show. It was really nice to have you and sitting in the hot seat there. Really appreciate it. And with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching this with us. I want to thank all our couch guests here, who without them in one way or another, we could never do this show. So again, thank you guys. I am Chris, and see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Yay!